Welcome back to Disturbed Reality. Today once again we're delving into the cartel world, more precisely a video that depicts the brutal execution of 4 women in relation to the horrific war between the Gulf Cartel and the Los Zetas. The war between the Gulf Cartel and the Los Zetas was one of the worst in Narcos history. Many atrocities were caught on video, in particular executions of cartel members on both sides. Some of these horrific videos can still be found today. But anyway, let's get into a little bit of backstory, and we should start from the beginning. The Gulf Cartel, or Cartel del Golfo, is one of the oldest and most established criminal organizations in Mexico. The Gulf Cartel is believed to have been founded in the 1930s, and they still operate to this day. The cartel is based in Tamaulipas, and in the early 1930s, their smuggling operations began. Originally, they smuggled alcohol and other illegal goods into the USA, but once the Prohibition era ended, this certainly didn't end the Gulf Cartel. Like any good business, they merely diversified. The group moved into controlling gambling houses, prostitution rings, a car theft network, and other illegal smuggling. As the decades passed, the criminal organization became stronger and more established, but it wasn't until the 1970s that the cartel skyrocketed in growth. Under the leadership of Juan Garcia Abregu, the cartel turned from a minor criminal organization into a multi-billion-dollar drug trafficking organization. By the 1980s, Juan Garcia Abregu began incorporating cocaine into their drug trafficking operations. During this time, Abregu managed to establish a working relationship with the infamous Cali cartel. By working together, they controlled the majority of cocaine shipments coming out of Colombia. During the 80s and 90s, the cartel was seen as one of the biggest and most richest in Mexico. In fact, during the 1990s, the cartel was estimated to be worth over $10 billion US. In 1995, Abregu was placed on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list. The net was closing in on Abregu, and on the 14th of January 1996, Abregu was arrested outside of a ranch in Monterrey. He was then extradited to the USA, where he stood trial 8 months after his arrest. Abregu was convicted of 22 counts of money laundering, drug possession, and drug trafficking. An incredible $350 million worth of assets were also seized from Abregu. He's currently serving 22 life terms in a US penitentiary. After the arrest of Abregu in 1996, there was a power struggle at the top of the Gulf Cartel. Many members vowed for the position of leader. It wasn't until 1999 where a new leader was finally established. The new leader of the cartel was Ociel Cardenas. Once his takeover was complete, he earned his nickname Mata Amigos, which translates to friend killer. He earned this nickname after assassinating Salvador Gomez Herrera, who was actually a friend of Ociel Cardenas at the time, but friendship came second to Ociel Cardenas. With Herrera out of the way, he could take control of the Gulf Cartel. After Cardenas took over the Gulf Cartel in 1999, he found himself in a fight to keep his leadership of the Gulf Cartel intact. Because of this, Cardenas sought out members of the Mexican Army Special Forces to become the military armed wing of the Gulf Cartel. His goal was to protect himself from rival drug cartels and from the Mexican military, and also to perform vital functions as the leader of the most powerful drug cartel in Mexico. Little did he know, he was creating an even bigger monster. As the years passed, the Los Zetas' reputation grew within the Gulf Cartel due to their efficiency, military know-how, and brutality. Los Zetas was named after its first commander, Arturo Guzman de Sena, whose Federal Judicial Police radio code was Z1, a code only given to high-ranking officers. And as I mentioned earlier, many of the Los Zetas were high-ranking police officers and also military personnel. So essentially they would use the Z radio code. So for example, Zeta dos Pendiente, so Z2, I'm on alert. And essentially that's where the name came from, due to the radio code they was using. But as I mentioned, after the years passed, the Los Zetas grew in stature, and in 2003, the leader of the Gulf Cartel was captured, and subsequently in 2007 he was extradited and sent to the USA, where he's now serving prison time. After this, the Los Zetas continued to grow in stature within the Gulf Cartel, and eventually the Los Zetas faction were making more money than the actual Gulf Cartel. Because of this financial imbalance, the Los Zetas decided to go it alone. They believed they no longer needed the Gulf Cartel, and as a result, a brutal war ensued. The rise of the Los Zetas really introduced the militaristic aspect to the cartel world in Mexico. They really did up the stakes and up the brutality. In fact, dare I say, they more than likely inspired other cartels to follow a similar formula. I mean, you look at the CJNG today, they are eerily reminiscent of the Los Zetas cartel in terms of how organised they are, the weaponry they have at their disposal, and the skilled fighters they have in their ranks. They seem to be following the Los Zetas playbook. But yeah, as I said, a brutal war between the Los Zetas and the Gulf Cartel ensued, and many people were killed on each side. Regular shootouts, execution videos, pure brutality. One of the most shocking examples of the brutality at the time was a video depicting the execution of 4 female Gulf Cartel members by the Los Zetas. The video was released in the early 2010s. Essentially, the large group of Los Zetas have the 4 women kneeling down on the ground, 3 of which are actually topless, and at the start of the video, essentially the Los Zetas just interrogate the female Gulf Cartel members. Now, I can't find any full transcripts of what was said online, but essentially the women were just admitting who they were affiliated with. And funnily enough, in this video, apparently the Los Zetas actually praised the female's honesty, and they then kind of turned around and said to the Gulf Cartel, "You guys are a bunch of pussies, pendejos, for putting women in this position." But unfortunately for the women, their honesty did not stop their brutal demise. And also, funnily enough, there's actually some gore crossover in this video. Now, the woman on the far right in pink, who dies the slowest, she actually apparently starred in her own gore video, where basically a dude was decapitated and then his face was removed from his head. You can actually find that video online, but to be honest, I've seen it. The quality really isn't all that great, and it's really hard to make out what's going on. But apparently she starred in that video, hence why she seemed to get the slowest death. And also, apparently the oldest woman out of the group was a lookout for the Gulf Cartel, and one of the other women was apparently the niece of a high-ranking Gulf Cartel member. But anyway, after the interrogation, the women are kicked to the ground and the executions ensue. The methods of the executions were via decapitation, and they certainly didn't make it quick. The executions were carried out with knives, machetes, and axes also. Another striking thing about this video is when the axe is used to decapitate a couple of women, like the sound the axe makes is exactly the sound it would make if it was just cutting into wood, just a thudding chop noise. And yeah, they was hacking away, slicing away, chopping away with axes, machetes, knives, until all of the women were decapitated. As I mentioned, the woman on the far right had the longest execution, and again, I'm presuming that's because she did something similar. I'm presuming to a Los Zetas member. But yeah, after the women were decapitated, then the Los Zetas moved to essentially dismembering the women, cutting the bodies up into pieces, and this is when they really used the axe, hacking off the arms, the legs of the women, essentially until they had a pile of body parts. And that's where basically the video ends, as they're halfway through dismembering the women. And yeah, it's definitely a graphic video, no doubt about it. That's what you expect from these cartel guys, especially the Los Zetas, who were really going on a tear in the early 2010s. And this is just one of those examples of that. They have numerous videos online depicting similar acts. In fact, there's a similar video to this, when they decapitate some dudes, hack them up into pieces, and basically put their body parts into acid drums. So yeah, the Los Zetas were really going hard in this time period. So yeah, it's definitely not a nice video to look at, and I wouldn't recommend that you guys watch it. Again, the one thing that really strikes me with this video is how the women actually took their fate, how they accepted it. There was hardly any screaming, any struggle. They basically just accepted their fate. Maybe they was drugged, or maybe they just realised the end of the road was there and they couldn't really do anything about it. But that is definitely the thing that sticks out with me in regards to this video. When I watch these videos, sometimes I think to myself, how would I react in that position if I knew my time was up and I was going to demise in a really brutal way. I'd imagine I'd cry like a bitch, but hopefully I never have to find out, put it that way. But I do plan on visiting Mexico at least once in my life. It's one of those countries on my bucket list I really want to visit, so fingers crossed, man, the CJNG don't find me and decide I need to be eradicated, put it that way. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video, if you can enjoy this sort of content, and once again I really appreciate the support that you guys have given me. The channel recently hit 83,000 subscribers, which again I find absolutely insane. I started this channel start of May, and you know, the fact we've come this far is absolutely incredible, and that is down to you guys. You guys give me a lot of motivation. You guys have really helped me out in creating channel art, intros, video ideas. You guys have really contributed, and that is extremely humbling. I know I've said that before, but I genuinely mean it, and I want to create more of a community vibe on this channel, so I need to get to know you guys, and I've said this a few times, but I do plan on doing a live stream Q&A very soon, so we can talk to each other, get to know each other, and have a bit of a bonding session, put it that way. Probably sounded a bit weird, but you guys know where I'm coming from. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. As always, stay safe, and look out for the next one.